Hello everyone, today we're working on a 2020 Chevrolet Equinox, and this has the, I believe it's a 1.5 turbo in it, 4-cylinder turbo engine. It has a 6T70 automatic transmission, it's 6-speed automatic, it's a transverse engine. On this particular transmission there's no filter to change. They have one internally, but the only way to get at it is to pull the transmission out and split it, and that's out of the question. Okay, so we're going to show you how to do the transmission fluid change, and we're also going to do a flush to flush out as much of the old fluid as we can. The vehicle has about 30,000, just over 30,000 miles on it. It's new to the owner that's having this done. No service has been done to it prior. Okay, and we're going to show you the procedure for that. The fluid we're going to be using today is going to be the Amsoil ATL Signature Series. This will far outperform this traditional oil that comes with them from the factory, or for that matter any other oil that's out there. Okay, we're looking at this transmission here, just getting ready to check the fluid. It's got 30,000 miles in this tranny. It's never been serviced since new, and it's new to this owner, so he wants me to do a tranny flush on it. We see the transmission fluid here is in the low 70s, so it's basically about room temp. It's cold. This check plug, I'm going to show you where it's at. It's right here. Let me get a little more light on it if I can. There it is, right there. And it's a 7/16 wrench size. It's right here beside the axle on the driver's side. So we'll take that out. We want to see what the fluid looks like, because there's no dipstick. I like doing this before I start on the transmission sometimes, just to see what's there and what the fluid looks like. And this stuff's pretty, it's almost a chocolate brown. It's really breaking down. This transmission is hard on the fluid. So this is one of those trannies with the Amsoil fluid. I do it probably about every 50,000 miles. If you're using the other fluids, I'd say probably about every 30,000, based on what this looks like, because it's kind of nasty. Okay, so I'm going to put that plug back in. It's still dribbling a little bit, but we're getting down there. And we're level with the vehicle. We've got it up level. That's one of the main things you got to make sure of is when you're checking the fluid level, is everything's level with the vehicle front to back. So I'm going to put that plug back in right now. There it is. Take a quick look at this fluid. And you can see it's dark. This thing holds about 9 quarts of fluid total fill, okay? And there's no filter that I can change. It's an internal filter. And that filter can only come out if you split the case, and that would mean removing the tranny, and that's out of the question. So I'm going to show you where the flush is at on this. We're going to do a flush and try and get as much of that old fluid out as we can. Now, the Amsoil fluid I'm putting in will hold up a whole lot better than what this original stuff from GM does. Okay, we're under the transmission right here. We had the check plug we just checked. We're going to go ahead and drain this out now. And it's the same size wrench, 7/16. A little ratchet wrench kind of makes it easy to take that out. This will drain the transmission. Alright, so what we're going to do is let that drain out, and then we're going to go on the top side, show you where the fill plug is, and we'll be back with you. Ready. Okay, we're on top of the engine. I'm going to show you where the fill plug is at, and it's right here at the end of my screwdriver. I don't know if you can see that screwdriver. But right there where I'm moving that screwdriver is the cap, and I'm going to put my hand in there and take it out. And it just unscrews. So you should be able to come in right here at the back of that engine, kind of the driver's side of that engine. You should be able to turn that off. Whoop, I just dropped it. Where'd it go? There it is. It slipped out of my hands on me. Come on out of there. Okay, and I'm going to pull that out, and there it is. So there's your fill cap. Just screws in. It's got an O-ring seal on the top. Okay, we're going to be taking off the cooler line to do the flush, and they have what's called a Jiffy type fitting, and I do have a video of just the Jiffy type fittings and removing them. So that's something you may want to refer to, because it shows you in complete detail how to take these fittings off. They're not that complex. And they make these tools. This one's a Napa one, and it's got 4 different sizes. The one we're using is the smallest one. And the only problem with these is, as tight as we're at in there, I typically don't have enough room. They're spring loaded, so you go over the clamp, or over the hose I should say, and on the back side you got 3 legs right here. And what they do is they bridge a gap to open up the snap ring so you can pull the line out. I'm not going to demonstrate that because again I got a video that demonstrates it. But that said, this kit's over $100, probably 125 bucks. I can't even use it on this one because it's too tight. I can't get in there and be able to hold this on and turn it and still get another hand in there. Typically I'm not going to have enough room unless it's very open. So you can buy those if you'd like, but many times you aren't going to be able to use them. So what I usually end up using, I've got a O-ring pick here. It's a snap-on and it's a corkscrew type. So what I'll do is I'll go in and I'll get a hook or get a hold of that snap ring and get a hold of my finger, make sure it doesn't go flying, take it off, and I can take my line off. Okay, and then also about 6-8 inches below where that line is connected on the cooler, there's a clamp, a rubber, or not rubber, but a plastic clamp that holds two of those transmission lines together. And I've got a long screwdriver here. I'm going to go down the top here, and there's a kind of a latch on it, a plastic latch, and you can undo it. Because if you don't undo that little plastic clamp, you can't pull your line out of the fitting to be able to do the flush. So I'm doing this up here just to kind of explain what I'm doing. I'm going to do my best to shoot it down there. It's a very tight spot, but we're going to do our best to try to shoot that down there and give you some idea what we're doing. Okay, we're going to take off the cooler line to do that flush. And the line we want, I'm going to try and get back here so we can film it at the same time as this top line right here. And I'm going to try and get a little more light on it. Let's see if I can. Okay, so there's a plastic keeper that we pull off right there. And just slide it down the line. And then right on top here is where my snap ring is at. Okay, and that snap ring, I got to get in there with this O-ring pick. I think I might be able to get it with my finger. And maybe not too. Okay, I can hook it with my thumbnail, but I can't quite get it off. So we're going to take off that little snap ring right there, and then down below here, about 6 inches down, is a plastic clamp. I don't know if you can see it real well where my fingers are at. Okay, but towards the center of the engine bay, on that side, not on the outside towards the wheel, but not towards the inside, towards the radiator more, there's kind of a split in it. You can take a long screwdriver and open that up. I'm going to try and show you that after I get this line off right here. So first thing I'm going to do is get this line snap ring off right here for this line, and then I'll show you opening up that clamp down there, because we've got to have that clamp opened up to be able to get this line out of where it's attached to right here. Okay, I've got a real long corkscrew O-ring pick right here. I'm going to try and stick that in there. It'll give me a little bit more room to be able to see. And I've got it started coming off. I got it just started. I'm going to put my finger over it, and there it comes. Got to hang on to it. So right there it is. Wiggle it around my fingers. You can see it right here between my fingers. I've got the snap ring out. And after we get done, I'm going to show you how to put that snap ring back in. We're going to set it up here out of the way so it doesn't get knocked off. Okay, and the next thing we're going to do is down low, we're going to hit that, I'm going to try and get that clamp. I don't know how much of this you're going to be able to see, but I'm going to put my hand down there on that clamp so you know where it's at. It's right here between my thumb and my index finger. So where my thumb is at, right over here, I'm going to bring this screwdriver down. It's a long straight edge, and I can get it right between the parting line, kind of right there in the middle of the line, and I can work it apart. Okay, I got it partially opened up. Take the side of that screwdriver, push it in, it should come out for me. Come on, baby. There it is, right there. Okay, so now it's unhooked, and now I can just swing it back, kind of out of the way. And now I've got that line, and what you're going to want to do when you take that line off, you're going to want to take a paper towel. Let's see if I got one here. We're going to put a paper towel kind of between those two lines, because there's going to be some fluid that's going to want to come out, and that way you can soak it up so it don't all fall down. Okay, and then we're going to wiggle that line. I'm going to try and get it so you can see it. Wiggle that line right there. There it is. Okay, so the line's out. Now the next thing I'm going to grab is a poly line. It's a 3/8 OD poly line. And inside here is an O-ring that'll seal that poly line to it. And we'll bring that line out, and that's the line we'll use for doing the flush. Okay, right here's my 3/8 poly line. You can get that at Menards or Lowe's, Home Depot, any of those places. 3/8 inch OD. Okay, so I'm going to come down right here underneath this fuse box, and I've got my hand stuck underneath the fuse box from the engine bay. And I'm going to bring that under and get a hold of that hose. Right here it is. Okay, and that hose is going to go right in, right, and I'm going to seat it in there. Just wiggle it a little bit, and there it is. Okay, it's in all the way. Okay, now we're ready to do that flush. So the next step will be getting that transmission all full and ready to do the flush. Okay, this drain plug here is pretty much all drained out. We're going to put the plug back in. That's an 1/8 inch pipe thread plug, so it's tapered. That means that the base here is a little bit narrower than it is at the top, so as you tighten it, it's like a wedge. And they're calling for about 105, 106 foot-pounds of torque. I typically don't use a torque wrench. I mean, if you want to, you sure can. What I do is I take them up snug, and you can always tighten them just a little bit more if they do leak. Okay, so if you want to torque them, torque it to, again, about 105 inch-pounds. Okay, just take it in nice and snug, don't get crazy, and you'll be just fine. Like right there is fine. Okay, so now we're ready to fill the transmission. The other thing I'm going to do when I do this this flush, I put the plug in, the check plug over there by the axle, and I do that so that the fluid don't run out as I'm putting it in, because I'm going to overfill the transmission to do the flush. This fluid is nasty. It's going to take quite a bit of fluid running through that torque converter to get it flushed out. Okay, so yes, I'm overfilling it. Is it going to hurt the transmission? No, because we're not driving it. Okay, we're simply using that fresh incoming fluid to chase out the old fluid out of the torque converter and out the cooler line. And when I see a nice color change up there, then we shut it off. If I don't get the color change I want the first time through, if it starts sputtering and spurting a little bit of air out of that cooler line, that plastic line, that poly line, I'll shut it off and I'll refill the transmission, and I'll go till I get the color change that I want. Then I'll stop the flush and at that point refill it. So that's kind of the procedure we're going to follow with this. And the other thing I might do also is when they're doing this flush, I'm going to have someone put it into gear, into drive, and into reverse, and then back to park maybe a couple of times. And that'll help get some of that fluid circulated also to the clutch packs and maybe help flush out a little bit more of that fluid. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing here with that. So we're going to get up on top, fill it up, and we'll be back with you. Okay, now we're going to put a funnel in, and I'm trying to give you an idea where that hole is at. You can kind of see my screwdriver there at the end of it. Right there is where we're going to go with the funnel. Okay, and I'm going to show you right now where that funnel is going to go in at. So it's going to go in right through between these wiring harnesses. And I'm going to try and angle it over so it goes in. And right there is about as good as we're going to get, and it's in the hole. Okay, so that gives you some idea where the funnel needs to go. Okay, now I put about 7 quarts of fluid in that transmission. I initially took out about 4. I wanted to make sure I had enough in so I could get a nice color change if I can, just doing this one time. So right now we're going to start it up. We're going to go through the gears. We're going to leave it about probably 2 or 3 seconds in drive, 2 or 3 seconds in reverse, and then that'll help get a little bit more of the fluid out of the clutch packs, hopefully. So go ahead and start it, and we'll get started with this. Fluid's starting to change just a little bit of color. You can kind of see it coming in just a little bit now. Still not the cherry red that I want. Slowly getting better. And we're going to be probably out of fluid here pretty quick. It's going to start spitting here in a little bit. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, it's starting to come around now. Okay, I'm happy with that right there. That's looking pretty cherry red again. It's looking pretty nice. Yeah. Go ahead and shut it off. Yeah, we're gonna stop right there. And I got out probably a good gallon and a half or better, but you can see we got a nice cherry red color on that now. It's changed color almost completely. We don't have that nasty black chocolatey look anymore. Okay, so I'm gonna call that good. And I'm going to show you buttoning up the cooler lines, and we'll refill it. And then I'll show you the procedure on that. Okay, I've got this little clip right here, and we're going to put it back in. And you can see there's slots around the outside of this. And right there at the bottom, I'm going to bridge that slot, and I'm going to push this on. Just like that. Okay? Now that's on. Now I can bring this other line up. And that line has got that little keeper. Make sure that keeper's up there fairly close. And then I'm going to try to finagle it so I can get it into that clamp down below, that plastic clamp, and this at about the same time. There we go. And what we do, take a look here quick, make sure I got it where I want it. Yes, I do. So what we do is just push it in, just like that, and then give it a tug backwards. And make sure that snap ring went over the ramp, and it's all sealed on. Okay, it's good, it's tight, I can see it. Then we put that keeper on, right there. Okay, and then we go down below, and let me get a little light on it if I can. I'll try to, if we can see it good. But right down here, I'm just going to clip that right over top of the tube and put it back in place just like that. It's done. Okay, so we're done now. We got that all buttoned up. So now we can go ahead and fill up the transmission and do a recheck on it, on the fluid level. Okay. Now, this is what we're going to do here next is take out, we've got the flush done, okay, and now we're getting ready to refill the transmission. So we're going to take out that check plug, okay, see how much fluid we have left in there. It looks like there's just a dribble, okay, and actually it's kind of running out a little bit. In fact, we have enough to start it. Okay, go ahead and start it. Add some fluid. Add some fluid. So we're going to run it here, and we're going to wait until it starts running out of our fill, or our check loop hole, I should say. Okay, right there it's starting to come out just a little bit. Okay, that's enough fluid. Okay, so right there it's just starting to run out. I'm going to let that engine run a little bit here and just let it get down to a drip, because as we heat this up it's going to expand in size. Go ahead and run it through the gears. Okay, right there I'm good. So now what I'm going to do is put that plug back in, because we have enough fluid right there. Until we get up to temp, we'll take that plug out again. So I'm going to show warming up that transmission, getting it up to about 185 degrees, and we'll recheck this level right here. Okay, I've got my snap-on, or Solus Legend here, snap-on, and I'm looking at the transmission temperature. Let me slide down here a little bit. There's transmission temperature. We're at 84 degrees right now. Okay, the GM dealer tells me we want 185 to, I believe it's 205 degrees to be able to check that fluid accurately. Okay, so what I'm going to do is do it with the Solus, and then I may do it with my temp gun down below just to compare the two to see how close they are. I may try that. Okay, but in order to get up to temp quicker, we need to do just a little bit of what's called power braking. Okay, so the way that works is we put a foot on the brake pedal and hold it, and then we put it into gear and we give it some acceleration. You can see the up here is my tachometer. Okay, you can take it up to maybe a couple thousand RPM if it'll let me. It might not let me. Yeah, it's not going to let me. I can get about 1500 RPM. Okay, so as we're doing that, you can watch this temperature here. It's going to start coming up. We're at 89 degrees right now on the tranny fluid temp. So I'm going to do that for a little while, and then I'm going to put it into neutral. I'm going to let the fluid flow so we don't get too much heat into the torque converter. Okay, so I'm going to do that, and another thing you can do is if you want to, you can take it out for a drive and you know, get it warmed up. That'll help. That'll get you up probably 150 degrees. But I'm just going to power brake it here gently and try and bring it up, coax it up in temp. See how long this is going to take. There we're at 91. We just jumped up to 91. I just discovered here is if you put it into reverse, you can actually get just a little bit more RPM out of it, a bit more heat quicker. It'll allow you to go up to close to 2000 RPM, so you can get just a little bit more heat into it, and see we're at about 114. Okay, so now I'm going to take it back into neutral and let it cool off a little bit and let it disperse that heat. Get some fresh fluid in the torque converter and all that. Here we're at 116, so we're climbing right up, but looks like reverse is going to work a little bit better. So put it into gear and hold it at about 2000 RPM for maybe 5-10 seconds, maybe a little longer, and then let it sit in neutral and let the fluid circulate. Okay, we got the fluid up to about 185 degrees. Basically what I was doing is put it into reverse and power braking it, you know, for probably about 15 seconds, 10-15 seconds at a time. It'll pick up about 2 or 3 degrees each time, and then go into neutral and give it a little bit of acceleration. That'll help that fluid to circulate through the torque converter and everything a little better and cool it off. So it took me probably about 10 minutes, I'd say, to get it up to temp. Just kind of on and off, on and off. You gotta let it cool down, put some more heat into it, you know, a little more power brake into it. So we're at 185 right now, so what we're going to do is go down below and we're going to check that fluid level. Okay, now up above we had 185 degrees on the transmission temp, fluid temp. So I just want to see how close we are down here. Okay, right here on the transmission we're hitting right where that spot, that cross is right there. We're at like close to 170 degrees. So we're close to that 180. Right there's a couple spots where we're about 180. I mean, if you wanted to use a thermal imaging camera or a temp gun, it's going to be very close. You know, if you use like a temp gun or something like that. Yeah, we're kind of ranging in the 165 to 180 range right in there. Kind of where you're at on that transmission body. But I'd say it's fairly close for checking the temperature. Okay, so I've got a pair of gloves on. This oil is going to be super hot. So you want to be careful you don't get burned. We're going to take out that check plug, and again we're level, 185 degrees on the fluid, and I'm sure some's going to splash out of here. It's going to have grown in size with the heat. Ooh, look at that. I'm going to put in a little more fluid. Okay, so I added probably another half a quart, 3/4 of a quart, and now it's just running out, and that's about what I want running out with it full. So we're going to put that plug in, torque it down, and we're done. I used a total of just under 10 quarts to get this cleaned up, and if you look at that fluid, it's a nice cherry red here. You can see it on the transmission. So we're going to wipe that all off. We're pretty much done with this. And again, about 10 quarts of that Amsoil synthetic, low viscosity, signature series ATF, and that stuff will far outperform any other fluid that you're going to put in there. And the other thing is, when you get down the road with this fluid, if you want to check to see what the fluid looks like,
Let's say you get down the road 50,000 miles and you're wondering what the color of the fluid is, you can pull that plug out part way and get just a trickle coming out, and that'll tell you what that fluid looks like. When that fluid starts breaking down, it's going to start changing color. Okay, just like that GM fluid that was in there, it was almost a chocolate color. Okay, that's telling me that the heat is getting to the fluid and it's breaking down thermally. Okay, this Amsoil synthetic will handle that heat like no other. So I kind of let the color of the fluid be the guide as to when to change the fluid. So that's just kind of a rule of thumb there that I use. But I know that synthetic Amsoil is going to last a whole lot longer than that GM product. So that's pretty much it for this video. We're going to button it up, clean it up, tighten up our fill plug there, and or our check plug I should say. And we'll be done with that. And I want to thank you for watching my video.